I was able to save up and buy a 3-family house in New York City at the age of 28 because I started doing this one thing about 4 years before I bought that house. That thing that I started doing is house hacking. When I started house hacking as a renter, I was paying about half of my rent, so half my rent was being covered. By the time that I bought my house, I was actually profiting, and house hacking was covering my rent payment in New York City in full. Now, whether you want to call it house hacking or rent hacking, I'm going to walk you through a few things to consider before you do this so you don't accidentally do something that might be illegal. We don't want that. House hacking is taking where you live and making it into a business. So now instead of you paying your full rent on your own, you're going to have other people helping you to do this for you. But whether you are getting a roommate or whether you're doing Airbnb or you're doing any other kind of midterm rental, like renting out to nurses or renting out to professionals, those are different types of ways that you could house hack when you are a renter. Now, because you do not own this property, right? You are renting, you are leasing this from somebody else. What you can or can't do is first and foremost governed by what is in your lease. So there are a few things that are common in leases that you want to take a look at to make sure that you are not violating this by choosing to start to house hack where you rent. Generally, if you are going to get a roommate or you're going to do Airbnb or you're going to do any kind of midterm rental and you are renting, you probably want to have a conversation with your landlord first. Before you have the conversation, you do want to take a look at your lease just so you understand what the limitations are based on what's already there. That way you have a game plan on how you can have a conversation with your landlord to convince them that this is a good idea for you and for them. One clause that is pretty common is one where it limits the amount of people that are in the house besides the person on the lease. I know for my leases, it explicitly says if it's one person that is on the lease, it'll say there cannot be more than one person in this unit and visitors can only be here X amount of days in the year. Another common clause is around running a business. So if you start to do an Airbnb, that essentially is a business. And so if you start doing that, your landlord will have the right and ability to evict you. If you have either one of these clauses that are going to impact you house hacking, then what you want to do is have a conversation with your landlord. Just because you ask does not mean that your landlord will say yes. A lot of times the price that you get in a unit is specifically based on what you are going to be using it for. So now if you're going to be adding extra people in, whether it's a roommate or whether you're going to do an Airbnb or whether you're going to do like nurse rentals, then that might potentially impact the price of your unit, or your landlord might just say, no, I don't want to do that. Then that is a place where you could go ahead and possibly find somewhere else that you can rent. But this is why it is beneficial to house hack when you own the place, because you can do whatever you want as long as it's within your state and local laws. I know that it is annoying to be asking for permission, but this is not your property. If you want to have full control over your house hacking potential and you want to buy a multifamily house, I do have a group coaching program to walk you through start to finish buying your first multifamily house. Get your application in so you can join the next group. I am curious, what kind of house hack do you plan on doing? Go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments. If where you're renting is in a condo or an association or a co-op, then everything that is in your lease is going to be trumped by the rules of that co-op or the rules of that condo board. The rules of the condo or the co-op or the association might dictate whether or not a short-term rental is possible, whether or not there's limits to the amount of people that are in that unit. So you want to get a hands of the bylaws of that association if possible. Most landlords don't show that to you. So if you ask a neighbor, they might be able to get them to you. But realistically, if you have a conversation with your landlord, then they are going to know what those rules are. If they don't and something comes up where the association says no, unfortunately, you will not be able to fight it and you'll just have to do whatever the association says, because technically that building is their building. That is the downside of living in a condo, co-op, or association. You don't have full control, which is why my favorite place to house hack is a multifamily house, but we will save that for a different video. If you're planning on going the short-term rental route, each city and each state has specific rules about short-term rentals. Some cities don't allow short-term rentals at all. Some cities, you cannot rent the whole place. You can only rent a room. And it really does vary widely depending on where you are. The best thing for you to do is to go onto Airbnb and put in your city and your state and it'll give you an overview of what those rules are. And then you also want to just like do an additional search of your city, state, and short-term rental laws to see what your limitations are. You don't want to put the time and effort into getting a place that is bigger and getting furniture just to find out that it is illegal for you to Airbnb in your city. If you do it anyway, one, when your landlord finds out, that you're probably going to evict you. And second, you and potentially your landlord are going to get fined for doing this. I know for New York City, the fines are pretty hefty when you do this and you don't get permission. For some cities, there might be laws that you absolutely can do short-term rentals, but you might need a license. And in some cases as well, the city allows you to do it, but they want to make sure they get their cut, so you might have to pay taxes. So if you don't pay taxes or if you don't collect, then you're putting yourself in a space where you are doing something that is illegal, and when they find you, they are going to fine you. Even if you're just going the regular roommate route, every city has specific laws as to how many people can be in a house and how many people can be a house that are not related, how many people can be in a house depending on how big a space is. So you want to go ahead and look up your occupancy laws in the city and the state that you want to be sharing. You can just do that by Googling city, state occupancy laws. That'll give you a good idea. Generally, if you are going to get a roommate, there's probably less complications to doing that as opposed to if you're going to be putting multiple people in as roommates, or if you're going to be doing the short-term rental route, that requires a lot more energy and effort. But either way, the most important person to get permission from is your landlord, because they probably know all the different restrictions as to what can or cannot be done. And in the end, if they don't want you to house hack there, you pretty much cannot, because if you do it anyway, then they may not renew your lease, and then that just won't be good. My favorite way of house hacking is to do it in a multi-family house that you own. So make sure you check out this next video, which shows you exactly how you can do that, even if you don't make a ton of money. I'll see you there.